This is Mr. Martin. In this video we're going to be talking about classification of conics. So when we're given a conic section in general form, we want to just be able to look at that equation and determine which type of conic section it is: circle, parabola, ellipse, or hyperbola. So the key here is that we're going to be looking at A and we're going to be looking at C. Those are the two keys that we're going to be looking at there. Because those two coefficients really determine what kind of conic section it is. So if you look here, you see that if A is equal to C, we're going to end up with a circle. And if A times C is equal to 0, so that means that either A is 0 or C is 0, then it's a parabola. So if we take a look at that, if A was 0, that means that we would have no x squared term. We would only have a y squared term. Okay, so just having one variable squared, that makes us have a parabola. And the same thing, if C is 0, that means we would have no y squared term. We would only have one variable squared. And we know one variable squared is going to be a parabola as well. Okay, and then for an ellipse we have A times C is greater than 0. So basically what that means is that A and C are either both positive or they could be both negative. Okay, so they're going to have the same sign. If they have the same sign, then it's going to be an ellipse. And then for a hyperbola, A times C is less than 0, so that means that they have unlike signs, means it's going to be a hyperbola. So as we go through the examples, I'll point out where these come in, but really we just have to look at A and we have to look at C, and we can usually figure it out based on that. So let's go ahead and work on these 4 problems here. For the first one, we've got A is equal to 1. That's my coefficient of my x squared. And I've got C is equal to negative 3. I have 2 squared variables. So I know it's going to have to either be circle, ellipse, or hyperbola. And I see that they have opposite signs. If they have opposite signs, that means that A times C is going to be less than 0. Again, I really don't worry too much about this part. I just look and see, oh, these are opposite signs, so that means that it's got to be a hyperbola. And after you do a bunch of these, you'll get the hang of it. Okay, over here for part B, I've got A is equal to 1. I've got C is equal to 1. Okay, we're looking at the coefficients of my squared term. So I'm looking at the coefficients of x squared and the coefficients of y squared. They're both 1. If they are the same, okay, if A is equal to C, that means we have a circle. Moving down to part C, here's my squared term here, and you notice I only have one squared term. If I only have one squared term, then we're going to have a parabola. So we could go back up here and see that A times C would be 0, because in this case C is 0, but if you only have one squared variable, you know you're going to have a parabola. Alright, and this one has x squared, so this is actually going to be a vertical parabola. And then for part D, again we're looking for A and C, so I'm looking for the variable of the x squared and the variable of the y squared. Notice that that's positive. So A is equal to 2 and C is equal to 3, and A times C is going to be greater than 0. They're both positive, which means that we're going to have an ellipse. Okay, so here A and C were opposite signs, hyperbola. A was equal to C, we have a circle. Only one variable squared, parabola. And both coefficients of our x squared and y squared are positive, which means we have an ellipse. So make sure that you ask me questions if you have them, and move on to the you-do problems. You can check those in class with me, and we'll see you in the next video.